How's it? Welcome back to Baz's Garage, where we are in part 9 of Billy Bob's Backyard Budget Bill in the Bay of Plenty. So where we are at the moment, if you have a bit of a squiz down here, you will see that the mower is basically being put together. So we've fully assembled the motor. It's now all back together again with all the stuff that you saw from last time. We've got the seat all now sorted, so we made a special bracket to fit the seat on to get the angle right so it's a good seating position. So this is quite simple. It's just going to go through the holes that are here. If I can see where they go, somewhere there and somewhere there. And that goes into there. Always when you want to get the work properly. So the seat belt's on there, so we've tested out the seat position and it feels quite comfortable, so that when we're sitting on it we can move on it. We've got a new steering wheel here, so this steering wheel replaces the little one that we had. The little one was just not strong enough, so this is actually, I believe, a tractor steering wheel that Billy Bob got at a special bargain price at the local Billy Bob tractor shop. I've cut a bit of a spline into here, and we'll put a keyway in there to lock it together. And they've got a bolt through there just to hold it all. So that's the new steering wheel. We've also now mounted on the side here our accelerator. Now going for the hand throttle. Personal preference, hand throttle seems to be, for me, a much better way to go. You don't have to worry about what your foot's doing, and when you're going over bumps you control it a bit better. We've also fitted on here the kill switch, so we need a kill switch. So that's fitted on here, and then down in here in the original hole we've got the start switch as well. So the wiring on these is pretty easy to do. So if we come around to the other side, I can show you basically how the wiring looks. Realistically, all you need is the kill switch. The kill switch comes through, so coming out of the wiring here from the side of the engine, you have the kill switch wiring, which is the white wire. Comes out off the kill switch off the coil. It comes straight up through into the kill switch, and then the other side of it comes out and it comes down to an earth. So it means is that when the tag's in, it allows it to run. When you pull the tag out, it earths it and it kills the engine. So that's really, really simple. The other part of the wiring is the start switch, which is on the side of here. The start switch comes up through here. It's got a power to one side, goes up through the switch, back down again, and then it comes down through to, on this side over here, you can see the actual start solenoid. So the start solenoid here, really cheap off eBay, Wish, AliExpress. Get a couple of those in because they do play up over time. All it's got is the two connections coming in here, one power in, and then through the switch and back to earth. So the only other thing you need for wiring is the wire here, the yellow wire, which attaches to the black wire coming out. It goes into a voltage regulator. The voltage regulator then comes up to the battery, and you can charge the battery. Now, some people don't run the alternator charging system, but yeah, 6 of one, half does of the other, so happy to run that. So the wiring is very simple. You can see we've got a battery in here now. It is quite a big battery. It just so happens that that's what Billy Bob having lying around. Now what we've done for the battery, I've just suddenly remembered, is I'll just sneak over here and grab a couple of these bits and pieces here, and we'll talk a little bit about quite a good little gadget if you haven't got one. So there's a thing called riv nuts. What riv nuts do is, if you have a look in here, you can see that we've basically put a nut into the system that all we have to do is just put the bolt in and it stays there. So this bracket here bolts on there, and all we have to do is bolt it in. What a riv nut looks like, you buy this set here, relatively cheap, well worth the investment. So you buy the riv nut set, and it comes with different size riv nuts that you put in. You drill a hole, you attach it to the tool, push it in, squeeze it shut, and what it does is it puts the nut of that size into the steel. So you can have all different sizes. I've got 10mm, 8mm, 6mm, yeah, all those sizes. Really worth buying one of these. Makes your life a lot easier. I like the idea of having closed nuts, so you don't have nuts and bolts everywhere. We've also done the same thing down the side of here. So you can see we've got another riv nut down here. So we've made this little bracket. The bracket comes down. If I got it around the right way, and the answer is yes. So that bracket will bolt onto there, and that will hold the battery in. So I've got one at the top and one on the side, so the battery will be nice and secure, and we need to cover these terminals as well as part of the regulation. So all we've got is a power supply from there and an earth from there to there. That's all the wiring you need to keep it going. The next thing we're going to talk about is the carburetor here. So what we've done is we've made a inlet manifold. So this is just a piece of pipe that's off an exhaust tubing off a motorbike. We cut out these flanges, so I just cut them out and then drill the holes, weld them onto there, and that's the manifold that we're going to use. There's reason for lengths of manifolds and sizes. I'm not going to get too carried away with that. All I'll say is that the slightly longer manifold gives you slightly more torque. More torque means you get out of the corners quicker, but you do sacrifice horsepower at the top end. But that's not really an issue for us because we don't really sit on high RPM all day. We want the torque to get out of the corners. So I've made up that manifold and bolted our new carburetor on here, the one with the accelerator pump. So also around over the side over here, you can see that I've made the exhaust. So the exhaust again is just made off bits of pipe. It's got a part of another motorbike exhaust coming off here. It goes down and it actually comes around, and I've got it poking out the side of here. So what we'll probably do is we'll get Billy Bob to buy a nice little chrome extension, and we'll bring the chrome extension out here so it looks all flashing nice as well. So I'm just going to bolt this quickly on. So the other thing I do is the threads that are in here on both these, I change the threads to metric threads. I basically cut metric threads in there, and then I can get these nice metric threads. You can probably just replace them with the metric thread, which is quite good. So we're just going to quickly bolt this on. Hopefully it all goes on nicely. Never does when somebody's watching. See, told you it didn't work when somebody's watching. Here we go, it's got it. So there's one other thing we're just going to quickly go over once we've got this tightened up a little bit. Right, so that's on there. At the moment I've just got a temporarily accelerated cable so I can just check that it works. This part here is quite important. We've got a fuel pump here. Now these carburetors are not really designed to have fuel pumps used on them. So sometimes what happens is the pressure from the vacuum pump that you get off the lawnmowers puts too much pressure into here. It can cause the float to leak. It can cause it to overfuel, and also when you're going over bumps, it can cause the float to have too much pressure behind it and then flood the carburetor, which gives you bump flooding and issues coming out of corners. So the way we get around it is a really simple way. So you take your normal fuel pipe, it comes around into the fuel pump. Where the fuel pump pumps the pressure out, you put a T-piece in here. Once you've got the T-piece in here, you run it straight back to the fuel tank. So all I've done is drilled a little hole in there and wound a barb into there, so it goes into there. So what happens is, when the pump is running and the engine's running, it's pumping fuel. It pumps fuel through to the carburetor through this one. But once the carburetor's full and the pressure starts to build up, it just returns the fuel back to the fuel tank so that you don't end up with too much pressure causing this to bump flood. The other really good thing about it is because the fuel is circulating, it actually keeps the fuel cooler, and cooler fuel gives you the opportunity to have slightly better power because the fuel is cooler, it's less dense, but we won't get too carried away with that. Now what you have to do is you have to get the pump runs off vacuum. So normally you get a vacuum line. So the easiest way to get a vacuum pulse for this is on your inlet manifold, drill a hole, put a tapping in here, put your bit of hose on top of there, and run this hose back to the pump side of there. Now, I'm not going to put it on here because I can't quite get in there, but it's going to go back onto the pump. So what that means is that the pressure from the carburetor side, the inlet side, is going to give you the vacuum pulse you need to run the pump, and then you've got the way of feeding it back so you're not going to end up with bump flooding. So effectively where we're at now, we have everything back together. The steering's all working, the wheels are all moving, the brakes are all bled up, the brakes are working and it's stopping the mower. we've just got to start it up, throw the belt on it. I'm waiting for the accelerator cable to turn up because I haven't got one the right size at the moment. So when that turns up, I'll be able to connect it up into here correctly, and then we'll have a accelerator cable. Now these carburetors require a split accelerator cable, one to run the accelerator pump and one to run the main part at the top here. So it'll have a split cable going in here, which will come up to a single cable attached to here, so that when we accelerate we can adjust how much fuel is being injected in when we use the accelerator pump. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a little attachment on the side of here so we can have a look at what the mixture's doing, and so that's another video. So the next video will basically be starting of the motor. We can show you that it goes. We will have the belt on it. We may even get to go for a bit of a fang. And the other thing we'll be able to do is maybe show you how to put an oxygen sensor on the side of here so that you can see whether your engine is running rich or lean, which is going to help you quite considerably with the running of the engine, because it does change depending on the height of where you're racing. I've been a little bit sidetracked recently because I bought a motorbike, and with the motorbike I've discovered that when I go up to a high altitude, the carburetor actually doesn't idle as well as it does lower down. So you've got to play with the mixtures when you get up to higher altitude. So, but yeah, that's a whole other story. If you're racing at different altitudes, you'll come across that problem as well with carburation. So I think that's probably enough for today. It's all back together. We're very, very close to having a bit of a try with it. I'm sure in the next video we'll be able to have that. So the next video will be video 10. And that video will be the one where it actually goes and we can show you how it performs maybe. And then once we've got it going, obviously we've then got a whole lot of work to do with tweaking it to get it set up correctly, adjust clutches, adjust carburetors, all that sort of stuff, tyre pressures, until we get it running right. So that's going to take a little while after that. So we'll run you through that process later. But for now, it's all good. Bezos Garage, till next time.